Hello, hello, everyone. It's Lindsay Landry, intuitive and spiritual business mentor, and welcome to the Let's Rise Together Sacred Conversations. I'm super excited to be here with you today, and these conversations are really designed to help you elevate your business, your life, your relationships, make a more potent impact, and create an evolution. And today I have a super special guest with me, Kim Guillory, and we are going to be talking all about making money for healers. So welcome, Kim.
Hi, thank you for having me. We talk about money. So cash is like the new four-letter word, right? It's got a little taboo on it. I think we need to do something about that.
I totally agree. So before we dive in, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you and your work and your getting here to where you are today?
All right. First and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur. I started my business 25 years ago. I started as a cosmetologist, worked my way into health coach, life coach, massage therapist, energy work, yoga, meditation, like all of the things, hypnotherapy, mostly to heal myself, and kind of how this whole thing came about. So I consider myself an integrative life coach because I integrate all of those modalities together. And what I do is I'm a clarity and confidence coach for entrepreneurs, especially in healing modalities.
Yes. So I think it's so important, right? Because so many healers, to their journey has led them to where they are. Healing themselves. And I think when we don't have those integration pieces, it can be so much harder to really find that clarity or find that confidence to step forward in our business and offer ourselves, let ourselves meet the world, right?
For sure. I think it's the thing that's why I was so drawn to the word integration and integrative, and the integrative life is, it's like I kept doing more and more certifications and more modalities, to heal myself. And it was the integration that was missing. It
Mm-hmm.
was processing those old emotions that were hanging out in the body, that the samskaras, I'll call them the scars in the energetic body that were constantly being triggered and being triggered and being triggered, and messing up relationships and even my business expansion, growing the ability to charge money. And because when the fear and doubt would come up, my body would freeze, and then I'd go into the physical symptoms, and then that would lead me back into the massage therapy or craniosacral or energy work or whatever it was. And I started noticing that once, like, we just really stopped and settled and dropped into what we were running away from, and just allowed those feelings to be processed, then integrated, and then embodied. And that work is needed. And I know so many of these practitioners who are out here offering this, and there's limiting beliefs, there's scarcity, there's the fear to charge, like we're not supposed to be charging. Or for me personally, there was so much shame behind it.
Or we need another certification or another to learn more, right? Or to get better.
For sure.
Heal ourselves more before.
For me, and I noticed, like, I have so many certifications. My husband was like, everything you do, you just assume be a doctor. Like, when are you going to stop going to school? And I was like, probably never, because I love learning. But I did notice that it was like the certification that was going to give me the confidence that, if I just get this, it's going to give me the right to say that. Or if I just add this piece, and that's kind of how I noticed it was coming together. And then I started talking to other practitioners who were doing the same thing. And whenever we were in conversation, they were saying that, well, I'm about to go do a training in emotion code, or I'm about to go do, a Reiki training, or I'm going to go and do this next. And I was like, okay, this is the story. We're never going to be good enough. We're never going to think that we're worthy. There's never going to be enough money. There's never going to be enough clients, as long as we're in the scarcity mindset. Because scarcity is, there's not enough. It's not available.
Yeah. So let's talk a little more about that. The scarcity mindset that leaves a lot of people in their business, like in this pressure cooker, where you do feel the lack of like, okay, well, I don't have enough clients or there are people, or it keeps you in the loop of like trying really hard to get your message out and to say the right things. So, yeah, talk a little bit more about that, or what you notice if someone who's listening, like they notice themselves in those patterns or those loops where they're like identifying.
They're afraid to say what they do because they don't know how to come across, or they're not quite sure what it is. Or is that what you're saying? Like, give me an example of the person that we're talking to.
Yeah, so what I'm feeling is so someone that they identify as the healer, and maybe they even have an idea of their service. So maybe they know I'll just use a massage therapist as
I was thinking the same thing.
an example, because that's kind of easy. Or even, an intuitive card reader or an energy healer. So they know that that's the thing, right? But maybe they're even being visible and like they're sharing, but they feel like they're not getting clients or attracting money. Like, so someone that's in that type of situation, like where would we begin with exploring?
So I think the three most important things, number one, is really knowing who you are and what you offer. Number two, really believing and braving.
Mm.
And number three, taking action. It's really simple. Everything I do is simple, practical. Not like the spinning of, I'm not sure what they want to hear, if they'll understand my languages, in my languaging, they don't know what I'm talking about. This is the new thing, this is something original. I think you were talking about this the other day about, it's like so special and unique.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually is a painful thought. It separates us. We are conduits of the same consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
This is a soul having a human experience, and this is the form that we've taken on. This is how we express that soul essence, that consciousness in this body, in this human form, in this lifetime. And the thing that I think that, like, I would say the poisonous thought, the painful poisonous thought is, I'm not understood. They won't get it. I'm going to be judged. People, it's all that shame behind it, or like that being misunderstood. And here's the thing: if you're thinking that, or if they're thinking that, that's actually the energy that they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually the results that they're going to get. And they're not going to get the follow through, and they're not going to get the money in it because they don't truly believe it. And what are the reasons that they're saying that they're not getting enough clients? I mean, I can tell you on my end what I hear from massage therapists or from card readers, or, just any of it in the healing industry. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching this. Is the world needs this, wants this. And it's not that we need to save or make things different. The fact is, there's a demand.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a fact. There is a demand. And for me, I'm passionate about getting these people to step into who they truly are, into their power, and to take control of what they really want to do. Like, we know why we're here, and we know it's different, right?
Right.
And we chose it. And we choose it every single day.
Mm. Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, because I know for me, as a healer, that was part of my story for a long time. And I mean, it still comes forward at times, of like this layer around, like actually communicating what it is that I offer, and being understood. And um, also this specialness. I was sharing about it because I think that, when we begin to come up against these places in us, it is sort of like a special place, right? We have this gift, we have this magic to offer. And it's the thing that creates us as an individual, but it also can feel like the thing that creates the separation between us and the world, you know? So
Well, if the thought is, I'm special, this is unique, this is different, I'm the only one who can't, then when we go to express that, because that's what we think, then that's actually the message that goes out there. And then there's people sitting here, what the heck is that?
totally. We're getting the opposite reflection, right?
Exactly.
The fear of the disconnect
Yes.
because
And
of
then
the specialness.
because the thought is, I'm different. This is different. I'm, it's unique, but we really, like, what you want to do is reach like people who understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. Everything, if we just dial it down. I know for myself too, I've been spinning this for a couple of years because of the integration, because I was coming from so many modalities, and I was like, but I'm different. It's different. What I'm offering is different. And I still believe that, in the way that I'm not just offering coaching, I'm offering the integration process. I'm offering the experiential process where you actually open up the portal, take us into that space of potentiality and possibility that they couldn't get to themselves, because the brain can't go there because it's never been there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we can evolve and grow off of someone else's conscious awareness that they're bringing in, if they've explored something broader than we have. And just getting into that essence and energy of that, and opening up that space and allowing that to come down and ground in it, actually creates a new imprint in the body.
Yes to that. And so as you're talking, one of the things that's coming forward is this idea of, yes, of course, we've all either shadowed or mentored under someone or taken courses. We had to learn our work from somewhere, right? And what I see a lot in the online space, so this happens with the actual healing modality, but I notice it also happening in the business world, where someone is like learning from a business coach, or they're learning from a strategist or something. And I think for healers, this is like even more predominant, where we tend to be so sensitive, like to the energetic alignment and to the energy around us, that and I think we have a tendency of like wanting to maybe please, because that's, or help. So what I see happen a lot of times is people sort of like take on the container that they learned in as them. So they think that this is just how I do it. Or, you learn Reiki and then you're doing like flat out Reiki, or you learn massage therapy and you're like trying to follow that protocol. And I'm just using those for
It was
examples.
so painful trying to do that.
Yeah. And, or,
That's the mind, right? The mind wants to know exactly how to guarantee success, or not to fail, or not to do it wrong. The mind is so attached to that exact, whereas essence is more of exploration and expansion.
totally. And I know,
Like,
for
how can I
me,
learn this and grow this?
when I was wanting to shift out of being a dietitian, even as a dietitian, I was like, yeah, but I'm not just a dietitian, and I kind of was a little like frustrated. And then it was hard for me to charge, because I really didn't even want to be doing nutrition consults, and I didn't even love that work, right? Like, and yet the work that I really wanted to be doing,
Was the thought, boy, if only I could make money
didn't.
doing this, I would just do this?
Well, at that time, I didn't even know to ask that question.
Right. But that's what I hear. Someone, it's like when you ask someone and they're in that position, right? Like right there, like I'm looking to switch from this to this. Like I'm a doctor and I want to be a coach, or I'm a dietitian and I want to be a health practitioner, whatever, a Reiki master, whatever the next thing is. This is always the thought behind us. Like, well, if I could do that and make what I make now, or if I could do that and make the money, or if I could do that and it was guaranteed to succeed, I totally would. That's how you can tell right there that there's scarcity and disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a dead giveaway, because the truth with a big T is if that's what you feel called to, drawn to, and you're clear about it, you set that intention and you believe in it so much so that you cultivate it as if you already were, then there is no option but it to come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're taking the aligned action from the belief.
Right. And also, this is really where the emotional healing process comes into play as well, don't you think?
Yeah,
Like to tap into the deeper desires and really discover what that longing is.
yeah. So when I started as a cosmetologist, and for those, I know a lot of healers started as cosmetologists. That's where we realized, like, I think we were life coaches behind the chair, right? As soon as my clients got to be, they were in a rush and they just wanted their nails done or their hair done, and they wanted to hurry up and go to the next appointment, or, you know, that kind of stuff. And we were no longer like into the meat of the conversation. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of done with this. Like, I need something deeper. And that's when I recognized it, like, and started moving into I think I was already a health coach, life coach. I was still doing some of that work. And for sure I was a yoga teacher and bringing it into behind the chair. And I forgot where I was going with this, when the essence of what we want to express is no longer a match for what they're coming in for.
Mm-hmm.
And you stay in that and you're out of alignment, your body will start speaking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Other people's emotions will be in the back, in the neck, in the top of the shoulders. Feeling ungrounded and unsafe will be in the low back, worrying about money and finances, and, you know, just not being secure in your own container. You know, not being grounded is going to come out in that lower back. And then issues with thyroid, adrenals, you know, chronic fatigue. That's like white knuckling and pushing through and still trying to make it work. And, you know, the thought is, I wish I could be doing this and making this. And that's that disconnect I'm talking about. I remember when I stepped into, okay, I'm going to talk more about the healing stuff. I'm going to talk about holistic health. I'm going to like talk about yoga. And I was like so afraid of the medical system and religion. Like, I was like, I'm going to die, like, surely. And I remember talking to the Facebook ads guy, right? And I'm like getting ready to promote this and go online. And I kept looking over my right shoulder, like under the carport, like, I'm going to get arrested. I'm going to get in trouble. Like, I don't think I can do that, you know, because it's still, you know, I'm here in the South and there's still such a stench about this being voodoo or being, you know, what's the word, occultic. And, you know, it's here. It's still here. It's still, and I get it. It's a fear. And I was carrying that fear in my body. And so that's the unresolved emotion I believe you're talking about and you're asking about, right?
Yeah. And like you said, like the places our body will start to speak to us, or we'll start to feel like kind of that depression of like, oh, I don't really want to do this anymore. And, you know, what I see a lot of times with people and mindset work is they can start to make themselves wrong for those feelings that come forward. And then they're like shaming themselves even more, right? Like, because they should be doing this thing and they should be trying to make money, right? And then they have this emotion. And so it becomes like this whole like shame fest snowball of,
and then you stuck spinning in it because your nervous system goes into fight, flight, or freeze. And now it's basically like having your forehead stuck in the freezer and you're like flapping your arms, but all you really have to do is drop your feet on the ground, like just ground and breathe and pull away. And the spinning stops. But we're so caught in the mind trying to figure it out. And it freezes the frontal cortex, then we can't make any decisions. We're just like, I don't know. And it's just a constant spin. But I think that, you know, when we're talking about the energy of what we're feeling in our body and having the physical manifestations, like, I believe it's that consciousness, just all consciousness that we're experiencing. You know, I speak about this with Joan of Arc and Jesus and, you know, so Martin Luther King, just people with a message that was different from mainstream. What is our memory of that? It's the first thing we think of when we go to put ourselves out there. And we have access to that consciousness. Every one of us runs through us like Christmas lights. We're like the strand, the consciousness, and each one of us are the bulb. We're the expression. What color light? What shape light? Like, how are we expressing that consciousness that's flowing through us? And part of that consciousness is death. Part of that consciousness is a burning, is a beating, is a killing, is a beheading. Like, that is part of humanity. And to deny it is to lie about it. Like, that consciousness came through the generations, just like that fear of charging. We were talking about this earlier with the tretas, or just the healing, and, here in New Orleans, and, we've heard about Marie Laveau, and, just all of this voodoo magic or hoodoo, or, all of this stuff. And like, I don't know that it was so much so that it wasn't, so you weren't supposed to charge as much as it was supposed to be hidden so they wouldn't kill you. Like, they were saving their lives. And so it was done in secrecy. And so there is some reputation about that's put this X on it, that it's a bad thing. And I think we're carrying that consciousness. And that's, a big part of what's oppressing the South. This stuff trying to come forward. We have so many healers here. And I believe the reason that the healers are so strong and passionate is in order for us to survive and rise in that oppression, in the depression. It's just really bearing down. I remember how many years it was like being in a pressure cooker. Everything I did for over 20 years was, how the heck do I survive? Like, I was trying to find the reasons why to live. I was trying, and my journals were like crying out to God and pouring my soul and pouring, it was just like, I just didn't want to be here. It was just too hard. Like you were saying earlier, like, I remember I'm just going to throw in the towel and feed the birds. Don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. This is too hard. I'm so tired of being ridiculed and being mocked. And, I go in public places and I'm having conversations, and there's people saying that I'm counseling, or I'm doing, she's doing her sessions, or it's like, actually, I'm just having a conversation, an intimate conversation with another soul about something other than booze and food. Like, that's actually what it is. I don't know if you call that counseling or call that whatever you want, but to me, it's just an intimate conversation. And that's where I feel that connection. And I just, got to the point where it was like, I just have to come out of the closet with this and just have these conversations, because there are people who want it. And that's the passion that I want to take, share with other healers, is there are people who want it. And we might still be hiding in the country. We might still be hiding behind the four walls. I was hidden behind tanning beds, nails, and hair. Right. And I'm just out in the online world having this conversation about it, and about the integration being so important. I was getting calls from people who were leaving the South and going to California or going to Peru and doing journeys but they hadn't integrated into this stuff. They were crazy and so totally disconnected. And that's very similar to people, healers, who are disconnected from their magic.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to be someone that you're not, and you're not bringing all the pieces and parts together. We have to integrate this stuff.
And, I see there's like a lot of times when we think of spirituality, there's this old idea that it's like an up and out thing, right? So it's like connecting up here, and that automatically like creates this separation of the humanness, right? This 3D world. And
not wanting to be in this pain body.
Totally.
Got to be out of here. And that was me. I thought meditation was going out there. Like, meditation was like an exit.
Right.
Rather than a coming down and a being grounded. Like,
or if I'm meditating enough or doing enough yoga, like, I won't have to deal with these things.
I think that was how I fell in love with yoga. Is I was at a retreat here in Woodworth, and we were there for 2 or 3 days, and I don't know, I still have the composition, and I had this pink heart, and I just remember writing home, like I was home. I think it was the first time I'd ever landed in my body. My whole entire childhood, never felt like I belonged. Never, I was abandoned by my mother. We had a very disconnected family. I was by myself a lot. Did a lot of soul searching, journaling, reading, books, kind of stuff from a very early age, and I just was always just trying to go back home. And I remember writing the suicide letter, and it was like, I'm coming home. Like, I'm writing my letter, like I'm coming back, and then I woke up and I was like, what the hell just went wrong? But that was my mindset. That was my perception, that home was not here. And I think this is the case for a lot of healers, because they're like, to bring that consciousness here into the 3D when you've been living in the 5D, like and I feel like that's the magic that I bring to the world, is bridging the gap right here. We stay in this lull where we can be right here, and we can kind of do the mindset stuff, and then we can do the spiritual stuff. But how can we bring them together? How can we include all parts of ourselves? That's why my podcast is called More Than Mindset. because we do go beyond the mind. And this is available to all of us. This is what the healers are bringing. The healers are bringing the portal down. It's not for us to go up into the portal. It's for us to bring heaven on earth. It's for us to bring it here.
Money is one of those ways, right? It
For
is a
sure.
a 3D construct, and it's also, one of these patriarchal constructs, but it gives us the opportunity to really come into our body and like come into this
deal with your emotions
3D
because
world.
money brings up all of your problems. It brings up all of your fear, all of your doubts. It's a beautiful tool to bring us into the work. Like, seriously, think about it. It is like it's the prize that makes, like, it's if it wasn't a dirty word, like money, sex, like those are as if they're human experiences.
Right.
They're part of the material world. They're part of pleasure, passion, purpose. Like, they're beautiful things. Magic is not this scary occultic like thing that's going to take you into another God world. It's the thing that's going to bring you to God. It's the thing that's going to bring you to yourself. It's the thing that's going to connect you back here. We're the conduit. This body is the vehicle for us to have the human experience. Without the body, we would just be a form floating around. We wouldn't be able to feel and smell and see and touch. And like we would be begging for a body to let us in to come to express and channel. It's like,
totally.
I just want to be part of your world. And we have the experience. Like, look at your fingers. Like, you have consciousness inside of the physical body. Money is one of the things of the material world. Sex and pleasure is one of the things of the material world. Relationship and connection. And here we are as these souls looking to eject and go back into the heavens away from the human experience. No, we signed up for the human experience.
Yes. And one of the things that's coming to me is like really how money is just a representation of all of our relationships. So I truly believe how we're in relationship with one thing, we're in relationship with all things. So if we are in relationship with money in a certain way, then there's like an invitation to look at, okay, well, what are your other relationships look like?
Yeah.
Because probably there's that same pattern.
If we're in full relationship with our self and soul essence, we're in relationship with money because abundance is our birthright. Like, it's almost like, I think I've talked about this, like we come in with a placenta, like the human form comes in with a placenta, right? It's like this, that's the avenue to get us here. That's like and then like that's disconnected and cut away. And then we're plugged into a program, a system of the world. And then right now, when we move to the next level, we got to cut that away. And then we plug back into consciousness and divine essence and divine source. And that's where that money in it. It's like the blimp, what's that called? The airplane, that big, it's like floating around with all of this money, waiting to see like who is this? And there's like Santa Claus, right? We got this chimney. It's like over every house. And you're like, oh, I'm ready for mine. Boof, boof, boof. It's not limited. That's the program that told us it was limited. And if you have someone else won't, that's not true. That's not true. We just need to plug into it.
Yeah. And so another layer that's coming forward is this, I can feel this energetic thread where, when we really open to money, like we're also opening to life, to feeling more pleasure, to feeling more like being more intimate with life, and to, feeling, and what I can feel too is how so many of us have these fears of actually, like, we're not even as afraid of the darkness, right, or the lack, as we are in letting this other energy come through us, right? Because it's like, okay, well, if I let that come through me, then who am I going to be?
Yeah. You're going to be you that you possibly have never
Powerful.
been.
No.
Yeah, powerful. And again, is there even a me? Do we even ever know who we are? Because we're just constantly evolving on that same consciousness. And so we grow into a state of consciousness, and then we grow that state of consciousness into the next state of consciousness. I mean, it's just a never ending thing. And money is just one of those consciousness. Like pleasure is it's just layers. It's just the next layer. And the ability to earn it, really, that's where, the integration of mindset with the energetic work,
Mm-hmm.
mindset with emotional healing, mindset with like there's a little tweak, because for sure your thoughts create your feelings. Your feelings compel your actions, and then you get your results. So we can't miss the emotion and the feeling piece, but we can't miss the mindset and the thought piece either. Because for me, mine was charging more or charging money for this was going to disconnect me from others who need my help. Like, and that was my judgment, guys. And that's your judgment. If you think charging more is actually disconnecting you from people, it's actually your judgment that those people that you're thinking about should be different than what they are. And they should be able to afford it, or they should be able to like value it, or it's your judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Actually not about them at all. They are in the position they are in because of their thoughts. But if we get out of the people pleasing, the codependency, the
Mm-hmm.
scarcity, the victim, the martyr, like all of those things, if you step away from that, and that is a process within itself, and you step into belief of, listen, this is my gift, and this is what I'm here to share, that's actually when you're going to get the connection that you're looking
Mm.
for.
Yes. And I want to just invite you to talk a little more about the exchange, because I know when we were talking before, that was one of the things that we said we'd kind of dive into a little. So like when you actually charge and you allow someone to meet you there and pay, like this exchange, this energetic exchange that happens.
It opens that space for the intention to manifest
Mm.
on both and all levels. I'm telling you, it comes down to scarcity and trust. It just does. I get that it's scary. I think I have a simple, practical approach to speak to it, and to not keep it a dirty word, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what gives me the authority to speak on it is I was in scarcity for so long. I spent so many years. And just so y'all know, it's way funner once you break through it.
I know you've done a ton of traveling and
It is way fun. And I've helped a ton of people. That's the beauty. When I was at the point where I was so afraid and I was not charging, and I was worried about like these 5 little people, and because I want you to really count and consider, who are they? And write that
mm-hmm.
down. Who are they that's going to judge you? They're not going to have the money. They that you're going to leave behind. I want you to write that down, because chances are it's 2 to 4 people, maybe 5 at the most. But what it did is, once I stepped into it, the people that I'm helping now are helping so many people. It was all
Yeah.
my mindset. It was all my restrictions. It was my fears. It was my dad's story. It was my grandparents' story. It was the people that I babysat for who didn't have money when I was a kid story. It was just everybody's story.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's story. I didn't even know who I was and what my story was at the time. I just knew that I was feeling all of this fear and scarcity and like lack and doubt. And I was desperate. Like, what I wanted more than anything else was to connect with people and to help them, which was really, I was such the wounded healer, right? It was really to help me. And that's what we do. If we're not careful, like all of that begging and pleading and trying to convince people that they need what you have to offer, that is you reflecting your work into the world, pinpointing it, and then desperately trying to fix it. If you turn that inside
Mm-hmm.
and you actually do the work yourself, which is what I offer, that's the coaching that I do, is holding the space to integrate and heal your own story, so you're not like vomiting it out in the world and then trying to clean it up. That's the mirror. That's the mirror. It's our work. It's our responsibility.
Yes.
And so it's not about them not wanting to pay. It's not about them not wanting it. It's not about, that all that judgment that we have about other people. I believe the only 2 reasons that we suffer are judgment and comparison. We think
Mm.
different. We think they should be different. We think it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be this way. They shouldn't be able to make all of that money. We should not be able to make money, like all of that stuff. Anytime you're in that, you're in lack.
Mm. Yeah. So when we realize that it's all for us, right? Like whatever reflections we're receiving, it's for us. And it's not out of a bad thing that we're doing something wrong, but it's an opportunity for us to stand more into our power and to maybe come more forward, or um, offer more of our magic than.
Yeah. That's really what I'm so passionate about, is helping people get really clear and confident breaking through, healing that scarcity story so that they can step into the power. Because what it's doing is that story is actually preventing the magic from getting out into the world. And that is affecting our world. That is affecting our evolvement,
I remember my big snotty cry, moment where I was helping a friend clean a moldy house for $10 an hour because I wasn't making money in my business. And this was kind of when I was transitioning from wanting to let go of being a dietitian to step into healing work and really claim more of that for myself. And so I'm helping her clean a moldy house, and I'm like, yeah, I manifested this to make some money, right? And I got home and I had a sore throat and I started to feel sick because of the mold, and me and my boyfriend were fighting, and I remember just crying and like snotty tears, and I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. And I realized it's more painful not to use my gifts than just to use them.
I'm telling you, at the end of the day, it's the shame. There is why is it so hard just to come out?
And I realized too, I'm like, there's other people that are feeling this right now, and I could actually help them.
Right. That was my story. 20-something years, severely depressed, not wanting to live, mad at God. Like, why am I still here? I don't want to do this. I was doing a nail client's, I was doing one of my clients' nails. She'd been with me like 8 years, come on a regular basis. She exercised with me. And I remember I was sitting right here on the other side of this wall. And she says she was diagnosed with 4th stage liver cancer. And I heard myself say, why does she get to die and I have to live?
Oh.
I was like, fucking depressed. Like, poof. I mean, it was just like clear as day. I didn't realize it. But what it was going on is all the way back from when I was a teenager. And this is the thing for most of us healers. We did not fit in. We didn't fit in the classroom. We didn't fit in the family. We didn't fit.
We weren't understood, or we couldn't communicate right.
Y'all need to all go watch Frozen 2.
Oh.
So that she's like, this is kind of the same story, but that story, carried all the way in, but I didn't realize it when I woke up and my suicide attempt didn't work. I remember like being so mad, but I kind of like closed the door on it and like cleaned up the mess and like just kind of went on like it didn't happen. And then I just became this rebellious teenager who took every kind of risk you could possibly think of, because this is how I feel. The rest of life is just long job. I've already I wouldn't even be here. And I remember in that moment, I said, that's fine. From here on out, I'm not doing anything that's not fun. Like, I mean, on the spot, turn things around. I think it was 2005, 95. Yeah, 2005. And I mean, just made that swift turnaround. And then it was like the domino effect. Everything fell apart.
Oh.
It was a total breakdown. And this is the rebuilding. This is the other side of the rebuilding. But it was like truly what we think, right? And these emotions that need to be processed and brought back together, really what's what creates the results. And I think what I thought is like, I'm willing to have this human experience and I want it to be fun. Let it be easy. And I just got curious and started exploring and started asking. And then listen, when I started coaching, it was $297 for 12 weeks. And I was like begging people to do it. And I went all the way down to $59. I know the pain of coaching. I get it. I get it. I mean, it took me, I want to say it was 8 years for me to total out like $19,000. And I was mixing that with like private yoga and, just all kinds of things.
Doing everything, serving them in every way.
That's it. And when I figured this out, I mean, I turned that around in 12 months and hit 6 figures. Like it was just like, whoa, it's really stepping into that authority and coming into the power. And nothing else changed outside of my belief about money and that,
because you were already taking action before. You were doing things, you were offering things, you were taking the action, but you just really aligned to.
I was just in the pain of it.
Your true.
I was in the pain of it, and I had so much shame. I really didn't want to tell people what I did. So they would come in to tan or to do something else, and then I would like take the back approach. I would kind of like hide it in the yoga room or in the back door. And so when I started to bring this online, I mean, there's no more hiding when you're online. I mean, your family sees it, your kids see it, it's like do they see it? I don't know. They may not watch any of this stuff at all. I finally got to the point where I was like, And for those of you who think like they're going to think this about me, just so you know, there's probably 5 people who are going to see your Facebook Live. Like, don't worry about it. Just use it for practice and get yourself out there. Because I went from, I'm going to die, I can't believe I'm doing this, to, I can't believe only 80 people liked my puppy. That's ridiculous. I should have had 1,000 likes on my puppies, right? It's like realizing that with the algorithm and stuff, it's really not as dangerous as you think it is. I truly believe that it is that consciousness from all of those deaths before, you know, the hangings, and the burnings, and the beatings, and the isolation, and the being torn apart and torn down and restricted, and they're having to hide it. I believe that that's the consciousness that's coming out in our body, because it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense that anything in my life ever led to that kind of danger.
Yeah.
Because I was free. I never had anyone tell me like exactly what to do or how to do. I mean, if anything, my pain came from the isolation of abandonment, of neglect. It didn't come from like so much from abuse and beatings and, you know, any of that kind of stuff. It came from isolation, and which I think is the greater pain if we could measure the two, you know, because you can kind of eject from here, but here you have nowhere else to go. I mean, you're just in isolation. And so to figure it out, I think that's why I'm so spiritually strong and geared. And there's no way I can tune that out, because that was my saving grace, you know, is turning that on.
And when we're willing to go to the discomfort, right, that is where we meet God. That's where we actually meet the grace. And like,
I think I'm so embarrassed of it though. I like that. I think I like didn't want to be that, because I felt like I was isolated and judged because of my spirituality, because I was the counselor or the coach, or that, you know, I was like doing that thing that was so shameful for me. I thought that that's why I was disconnected, but it was actually me being disconnected from myself that was creating the feeling. Because now I'm like, I'm fine. Yeah. I mean, before I was like drinking and, you know, carrying on and doing all these things because I was super uncomfortable and, you know, around the multitudes of people or stuff like that. And now I just am what I am. I just, and it's,
well, we love who you are.
Like, guys, I want to encourage you. It's worth doing the work.
Yeah.
To step into the authority of who you are, because you're never going to feel connected.
Well, it's like we're creators no matter what, right? So
how do you want to express that?
Crap. Or we can like learn to use our power, and we can begin to create some magic and like play in it. And
yeah. And I think the intuitive part was probably the hardest part to explain, like not knowing how I knew what I knew kind of stuff. Yeah. It was like, and then when I recognized like it was intuitive healing, and it was like really just holding that space of presence, and, you know, and I think the biggest thing is when I started doing retreats and really noticing like the presence that comes down, like bringing that heaven on earth. In that experience is when I realized that that's where I had been going all those years. And, you know, to be able to like hold the space for others to experience that, because once they experience it in the physical realm, once they experience it in the material world, it's now locked in, and then you can take yourself there. But until your brain actually has something to compare to, it can't manifest. And that's why this abundance stuff is so hard, and law of attraction. It's not walking around with positive affirmations. I hear this all the time. Kim, I've done everything I've done. You know, I've said it, and they're so aggravated. And I'm like, you're not listening and you're not feeling it. And I have a podcast called The Flaw of Attraction. And it's when you take feeling out. You have to have the feeling in order to manifest it. You have to have that vibration and to raise it. And so if you're walking around saying what you don't have, or what doesn't have, or what didn't work, then you're in that essence. You're in that vibration of it. And like Lindsay said, you're going to create something, and you're going to create what you believe, always, every single time. And so how long can you, you know, bring in the potentiality, the possibility, stay in that, grow it. And what's going to happen is while you're in there growing it and you're in that belief, there's someone somewhere else who's asking for the help. And then there's this, it's almost like it's this coming together, like, come on, here it comes. And then you go into disbelief and they go back out.
Yeah. We're like literally pushing them away.
Yeah. So you're constantly got the abundance coming in, and then you go into disbelief and it goes away, and then it comes in and it goes. So as soon as you're getting close, that's what I'm saying. It's got to have the aligned action. And the belief is on 3 levels. Like you have to mentally believe it. You have to emotionally believe it. You have to physically believe it. Like you have to feel it to the bones.
Yeah.
Every morning I journal and I bleed out disbelief. It's like blood broth. Like I just, whatever's in the bone marrow, just journal. Because when you wake up, sometimes you're in a different mindset. You're just like, whoa, wait, where did I go last night? And so I do not get up until I am back in that belief. And I was like, nope. Let me be surprised today.
I love that. I do a similar thing with like fear. So if I'm noticing any like anxiety or anything like that, I just write down all of my fears, even like go the next layer of like why this is so scary, and just unravel it, like let it. And then I'm like, oh, maybe that doesn't have to be true.
It doesn't have to be true, right? I have a whole 5-step process. Anyway, I know we're going over here. I feel like we've been.
Yeah, I'm sure we could go on for all day, but
sure. We'll have to do a part 2.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful for you and this conversation. I know that it's definitely needed, and any of those that are listening, if you have questions, you can post them in the comments or Facebook threads. And do you want to let them know how else they can find you and connect with you?
I have a Facebook page, Kim Guillory Coaching. I have a podcast called More Than Mindset, and you can go to my website, kimguillory.com. It's kind of all there, or friend me on my personal page. I'm pretty simple, practical like this. Just kind of hang out. I do have Instagram. It's not my home for homes, but it's Kim Guillory. I think my name's it's just my name all the way across, except for the podcast. And in the podcast, I'm kind of talking about these concepts and about specifically talking to health and wellness practitioners. Guys, I was in a bind for so long. You can't imagine the money and the time I spent to try to figure this out. And I just want to encourage more of you to come out, because I know you have the magic. I know you guys have the magic, and there are people waiting for that service. And that's like, if I had to say there was one thing I was most passionate about, it's when I see the pain of the person who has that to take forward and they haven't figured out how to come out. And I get it. Our container, our body, it like shuts down, closes down to this belief, whatever our belief is. It's almost like it's all rusted. It's like our hinges are rusted and our container is small like this. And we have all of this stuff coming through us, right? We're like channeling all of this consciousness, and it's growing more of us, and we're like busting at the seams. And so our physical body takes, kind of hits on that stuff. And we know when we have things like that going on and we connect the dots, we know we're out of alignment. And so really it's stepping in, tapping in, pulling in, staying grounded. The one thing I found is the biggest separation for healers is they stay way up here and they're not grounded. They're not solid. They don't have a container to take their magic out into the world in. They haven't built out that container is the best word I can find for it. It's like they do a whole bunch of sessions, a whole bunch of ways, and they're always looking for the next, and don't have a systematic way so that you can stay in ease and flow and get your magic out there and have a steady flow of clients coming in. And I think it's coming from not being grounded.
Yes. So I'll put the links in the comments so you can check out Kim's podcast and all the goodness that she's up to. And yeah, and also if you want to stay connected with these Rise Together conversations, you can keep your eyes out on Facebook, or you can also join my email list, which is in the comments, to make sure that you get the series of conversations. So,
all right. Thanks for having me.
Once again, it's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.